Hello Vanessa, thank you for your time for this interview. You're currently running a carbon monoxide awareness campaign. Why is that?
Well, in 2010 my children Chase and Tyler, who are only 6 and 8, died of carbon monoxide poisoning whilst we were in our rental property, and that was due to a faulty gas heater which had never been serviced. So I was also nearly killed and spent a lot of time in hospital, and during that time I realised what killed my children, and I couldn't believe it, that it was an appliance in our home, and an appliance that is in many people's homes, and that it's a killer if neglected. So I just wanted to raise the awareness of this this issue to make sure it doesn't happen to anybody else, basically.
Yeah, that's right. It's probably going to be hard talking about this, but can you talk us through what happened that night?
So basically what happened was that it was just an ordinary Saturday night, usual kids running around and a few movies and just watching them and playing with the children, and the boys went to bed, and I went to bed later, and they came to my room, and in the middle of the night, or it could have been morning, crying, which I assumed it was from a nightmare, and one of them woke the other one up. So I was half asleep, but obviously we were all affected by carbon monoxide poisoning at that time, and just so they jumped into bed with me, which is quite normal when they used to get frightened or scared or lonely. And that was it. My children never woke up, and I also the only reason I did wake up, I think, was because my ex-husband knew that there was something off and trying to get in contact with me, and somehow I woke up, and
So in regards of your own, you were taken.
Yes, so initially they suspected that there was foul play, that obviously they thought it was me, and they arrested me. I was taken to the local police station. I think I was in there for about 4.5 hours, and I was quite unwell, and I think I stopped moving in the cell, and which they decided then at that stage to take me to the hospital, and then basically I was flown to St Vincent's and was in ICU for quite some time.
Oh gosh, so and what's happening at the moment? Is anybody been held responsible for not servicing the heater, or what happened?
There was a coroner's inquest, and basically they go over things, and I don't really think that the coroner's inquest was particularly the appropriate place, because it was a lot on hearsay, and I feel there was a lot of back-patting going on, and there wasn't particularly that much factual information I found. So I think that was completely irrelevant to what happened to my children. We are pursuing the landlord. We are suing them. So that's currently underway. And if I had my choice, that they would go to jail. And I dare say that in the future there will be a lot more cases, a lot more litigation. And I think that landlords, real estate agents, need to start being aware so they can take appropriate action to make sure that they don't kill anybody, and also they don't actually end up in court.
But I mean, you were talking about killing people, but easily people can be affected. The health can be affected by carbon monoxide poisoning, and it would be a good reason as well to take landlords to court in that respect.
That's right. If they don't kill somebody, then they can also permanently damage their health. Like I also have long-term health issues because I nearly died, and I've got current arm issues. But I mean, I've heard so many cases throughout Australia about being sick from carbon monoxide, low levels of carbon monoxide poisoning for quite some time. What the foundation wants to do is get a lot of research and statistics behind us to prove this, and then what happens is if we have cases in the future that's found that they've been subjected to these conditions, then what happens that they can use that evidence to take these people to court, because these people, their lives are affected. You know, it damages their health, and people need to be responsible. If they're not going to be willing to fork out a couple of $100 each year just to keep people safe, then they need to take a real hard look at themselves.
As a gas fitter, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's you know, for a few pennies, it's just
exactly. It's not worth it.
Yeah, no, that's right. What was the property like when you lived in? Was it well kept or?
Yeah, certainly. It was quite nice. It was an older. I think it was an older property, about 20 years old. Could have been longer. But it was very well kept. I mean, I used to keep the house clean. It wasn't an older, run-down shack. The heater looked visually fine to me, so there was no indication. And so, I mean, it was just an average, normal home and, a family home, basically.
So, you mentioned on your health before. Has your health improved over the past year or so?
It's stuck. I mean, obviously I was in hospital. I had renal failure. I had a brachial plexus injury, so my arm swelled up about 6 times
That's
the
right,
size. So that I couldn't do much of my arm for quite some time. I had renal dialysis for some time in hospital. And when I was discharged, obviously, it was really hard. Like, I couldn't walk initially. It took me several weeks to be able to get back up, and I had to be helped showered. So I went back to my mother's house because obviously I had nowhere to stay after getting out of hospital. So it's been a long road, and my arm, I mean, I can now move my arm. I never used to be, I couldn't move any of my fingers, and I couldn't move my arm at all. So, I mean, in comparison, I do have the movement, and I had an operation on my hand to allow flexation for my fingers. But like, my whole left arm is nerve damaged, and nerve damage is extremely painful. My hand constantly hurts, and my hand's rather stiff, and I can't sort of move my shoulder. Like, I can't reach up, do anything like I used to.
But that will be a damage that will be for life, do you think?
Yes, that is.
Something?
Yes, so it reached a point, so I sort of was able to move it, and then nothing's changed, and that's permanent now. And I have a slight, small heart, I think there was a small heart damage, but it wasn't particularly too bad. So, and then apart from my memory is horrendous. It's difficult for me sometimes to function at work, which you can imagine that would be hard to do, because everybody needs to earn a wage, and so it lets me down a lot, and it makes it really hard, but you just have to keep battling.
Now, you mentioned your arm. I can't remember, what was the name again?
It was a brachial plexus injury.
Because I also I read something like Saturday night palsy. Don't know what.
The what, sorry?
Saturday night palsy.
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
People have a bit of a drink and they'll wake up.
Yeah, that's right. It's very,
to sleep and
very similar to that. Yes.
But obviously very severe.
Yeah, and that's quite common actually in carbon monoxide poisoning cases. I found out. It was interesting to read. So it's like a brachial plexus injury, which is like the nerve damage component. And then there was the rhabdomyolysis, which is the swelling of the arm.
Right. Okay. Gosh. So 4 years on, what's your life look like at the moment?
Look, it's awful. I hate my life, basically. It's terrible. I mean, I wake up every day and my children aren't here. It's like a life sentence. It's like the people done something wrong, like the landlords and the real estate agent. They were the people who were in the wrong and done the wrong thing, yet I have got the life sentence. So it's not fair. I can't see at the moment. I mean, I have the foundation and we work hard about creating awareness. And that's, but personally for me, it's extremely difficult, and my life's never going to be the same, and it's extremely painful every day. So I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, basically.
It's so hard to imagine,
Yeah, and nobody would.
It's just so difficult.
Yeah, well, and many parents have lost children. I mean, it's the worst pain you can ever experience, and you're like, you never can imagine this type of pain. So you know.
Gosh, yeah. No, obviously something needs to change in Australia because what we don't do is service gas appliance or have them serviced.
That's right.
I know that for myself. I'm a gas fitter myself. I get called out when things break down, and I see fires that 20 years old and they're full of dust, nearly catching fire. You know, and that's the attitude at the moment. So you were talking about the legislation that needs to be brought in, really.
Yeah, absolutely. There needs to be legislation. I mean, Australia, we're behind every other country because, as you said, UK, USA, and you know, there's a lot of other countries that are extremely proactive. France, you know, these countries have taken initiative and they're looking after the health of their community members. Australia, not so much. I mean, the government obviously knew about carbon monoxide. They knew about these issues. Other people have died well before my children, but you know, I think that in my children's case, that I wasn't going to see that happen. The government needs to take responsibility. They need to make sure that they're actually creating that awareness throughout the community and bringing the legislation to make people safer. Because long term, I mean, they may balk at the idea of having to spend money on, you know, bringing in a legislation which will mandate servicing of gas appliances or any fuel burning appliance at least once every 2 years, and hopefully carbon monoxide allowance. But the long-term savings in relation to the Australian community's health is nothing in comparison.
Absolutely, yeah, that's true. That's true. And you know, you mentioned the 2 years. That's because manufacturers do actually state in the manuals.
Look, I'm with. Other countries recommend every year, and somehow Australia's come up with this 2-year idea, and I think that was like a cost analysis because, you know, it was a new thing for Australians. You know, the idea of having to service their appliances every 1 year was something that possibly wasn't going to be accepted as much as once every 2 years. And I think there was a story about why it was 2 years, but anyway. Yes, 2 years is great for a starting point, but there are certainly, as you would see in your industry and your work every day, sometimes 2 years isn't safe enough. You know, there's appliances that definitely need every 1 year. I know that Energy Safe Victoria, the regulator, they stipulate very old appliances that it needs to be serviced every year, and also to install a carbon monoxide alarm. So they do stipulate it. So I think that maybe we should start with 2 years to get everybody used to that, and making sure the appliances are at least being looked after. And then what we should do is review that again and possibly stipulate 1 year after that. So. But let's just bring in a legislation
let's start there first, I know, But I mean, it doesn't stop any gas fitters, you know, to go out actively and make their existing customers aware of the dangers.
Absolutely. You know? And the good thing about the campaigning with the Chase and Tyler Foundation and, you know, working with the other organisations, so we partner Energy Safe Victoria and also Origin Energy. And the response has been fantastic. Like, most Victorians know about the story of my children, and most Victorians also know about servicing their heaters. I mean, there's always going to be some lapse of awareness and education. We're hoping to fill that, but you know, a lot of the messaging has got out. A lot of people get that service. A lot of gas fitters and plumbers have been very good at jumping onto that market and making sure that they're letting their customers know, you know, this has to be done. And this is for the safety of yourself. It's an unseen danger. So that's been fantastic. You know, big organisations like Origin, I mean, that's fantastic that they can help spread the awareness. So you know, it's getting there. I think that, you know, we all really do need to work together to come join forces and then try and get it out across Australia, which is extremely important. I mean, we've just recently seen a big issue in New South Wales about the unflued gas heaters in the schools. And, you know, again, these are our children, these are our future. So, you know, we're poisoning them when they're going to school. That's not really a great thing.
Because you mentioned I think, no, I read an article actually about Romsey School.
That's correct, near Melbourne.
Victoria, yeah.
Yes, so they had a carbon monoxide incident where their children were getting poisoned,
yeah.
and it was the awareness from our program that made one of the parents think, well, it's carbon monoxide, and she was advising the principal, and I don't think that he heeded the words until a few other children were getting really sick,
yeah.
and then they all went together, and then the principal I think finally made some action and turned off. I think it might have been the cylinders or something. I'm not particularly sure, but so I mean, how incidents happen all the time, and you got to think, you know, is my child going to kindergarten and primary school and daycare, and what are they? I mean, there's no legislation by the government. Are these appliances being looked after? When my children go overnight to a friend's house, you know, how do I know that they're going to be safe? I mean, and when you see people dying when they go to motels and hotels, and when there's a big litigation case over in the USA where
that's right, that's right.
It was a swimming pool, and you had I think originally it might have been an elderly people die in one of these motel rooms, and then it was a week later and it was a child that passed away in the same room, and it was from a swimming pool. I mean, these incidents happen. There was an incident in Victoria where there was a motel where it was an old faulty appliance where he's died. So they're constantly occurring. It's just, you know, I think now the information's getting shared because of online, and we're hearing more frequently, which is a great thing because it is a big existing problem, and you know, I think it's time we all take it seriously.
Definitely. So really, you touched already on the Chase and Tyler Foundation, what you're actually working on in the awareness with Origin and Energy Safe Victoria. What's planned for the coming year? So
this year we really got working on our Carbon Monoxide Awareness Week. So every year we're going to build on this. So this year we went up and we've done various sites in Westfields, and we're in Melbourne, one of the Burke Street Mall, and just really talking to people and giving out a lot of information to community members. So that was really effective, plus running the ads as per normal with Energy Safe Victoria. So what we're looking to do is branch out with the other regulators in the states next year and really make the Carbon Monoxide Awareness Week heard louder and more widespread every year. We just really want to make sure that people are really being proactive. It's the start of, you know, the winter months coming, and get your appliances serviced before you start using them. Hopefully that's going to stick. But so we're always going to be focusing on the Carbon Monoxide Awareness Week. We're also looking at research and data. We've got one of our board members who is working at a hospital, and we're about to start putting in a procedure for any emergency doctors consulting with patients that are coming through the winter periods, presenting with flu-like symptoms, and getting tested for carbon monoxide. And we're going to do some research and study that, so we can at least hopefully roll that out to other hospitals. That will be really good. And we're also looking at doing some district nursing, the same theory, but in colder parts of Victoria as well. So the nurses going out to patients' homes and then again testing them and then getting that data and research. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's really good.
We've also got another organisation that we're working with, and they go in and make sure that people are conserving energy within their homes. So we're giving them lots of information about these people having a look into the home, making sure that they're safely conserving it, because you know that everyone's talking about 4 or 5 stars, etc. But what they're doing these days is they're blocking everything off, and there's no ventilation. Exactly. So what we need to make sure is that when these people are going into these homes, that they're looking at proper ventilation, they're looking at their gas appliances as a safety risk if it's not actually taken into account. So, again, with your fans or exhaust fans and working with your appliances. So just getting that appropriate information for a gas fitter, plumber and a handyman. So as a handyman should never even touch it, but if they see a risk, then they need to ask for a professional to come in. So that's really great. So we've got a few little smaller things working, and we're also going to talk to South Australia,
yeah.
because we really want to get into that market and talk to community members and start sort of really doing exactly what we're doing in Victoria and moving across to South Australia as well. So, you know, getting the government really involved and making sure their community members are safe.
Good. Well, you've got a lot on your plate there, I think.
A lot.
And you do all that besides your own work, you know. I know you've got a board that's doing a lot of the work.
Yeah, the board's very good. So they do assist a lot, which is wonderful. But I'm sort of like the little working bee as well. And it gets very exhausting because my other job, I work at a local hospital, and that's more than full-time hours. So I get tired, and I probably get tired more than usual because of the grief. I mean, it's just, losing my kids, it has a massive impact on me. I just don't function normally anymore. So, I mean, I used to look after 2 boys, work a full-time job and have another casual jobs, and still play, netball and run after the kids, etc. And I just don't have the ability to do that anymore. So I tire very easily. So, it's a balancing act. Sometimes I'm just depleted and I have to rest.
It's such a massive change in your life, isn't
it?
So what should people do if they are worried about their gas appliances?
I would not turn it on. If you're worried about your gas appliance, call the gas fitter and plumber straight away and get them to come in and have a look at your appliance. I mean, you're better to be safe than sorry. Get a rug, get a blanket, but definitely call somebody to come in and check it out. I mean, it is so important. It's not only do you have to look after your own health, but think about your children.
The responsibility,
absolutely.
Sleep over.
Exactly, and the most vulnerable people at risk are people with existing health issues. We've got infants, we've got pregnant women, we have elderly people. These are the ones that will die first. These are the ones that will be affected first. So, look after your family, make sure that they are safe. I mean, when we have kids, we think about plugging up our electrical points and, the corners of our TVs, and even now our flat screen TVs, making sure they don't fall over. But our main thing that we use all the time is our heating appliances or our fuel burning appliances. And that needs to be a priority. We need to make sure that this is a priority in everybody's lives, because this has a massive impact on our health and also our life. So, what's a call?
What do you know about the attitude of landlords towards rental properties in regard to looking after?
Look, I know that since our campaigning in Victoria, we have had really proactive response from the landlords and real estate agents. So a lot of real estate agents are no longer accepting any landlords that are not going to enter into the initiative of making sure their tenants are safe. And if you're a landlord and if you're not looking after the safety of your tenants, you have no right to be in that business whatsoever at all, because it is a business and you need to run it like a business. You wouldn't be running a shop and having your employees come in, and if you've got faulty danger, I mean, occupational health and safety, that applies. Absolutely. That applies to a tenant, because that is your employee. You need to make sure these people are safe. You're earning money from this, and that's the job. And if you don't do the right thing, then you will end up in jail. And I will see to it in future that the litigation in Australia in relation to people not doing the right thing is furious, and these people will hopefully go to jail, because that's where they deserve to be if they're going to put people's lives at risk.
I fully agree with you as a gas fitter. The other thing that I would like to mention is I hear about property investments on the radio, the advertising, where they say earn a second income, but surely that's the wrong way of looking at a rental. You gain at the end of it when you sell it, not when you're running it. It's a business. Put the money back into it as you should.
That's right, and again, it's all tax deductible. It's not like they're not going to see this money back. And what is a couple of $100 a year that is tax deductible, that also is not going to end up, somebody landing in hospital or the morgue and you going to court. So it's just quite a simple thing to do, and the people who don't do it are generally just absolutely stupid. I can't think of another word for it.
Now you've been in the media for for the past 4 years, really. off and on. Is there anything you would like to say that hasn't been aired that you feel, you know, sometimes you have interviews on the television, I know it myself, where you want a particular part to be in there and they cut it out, and I thought by myself, that's what I wanted people to see. Is there anything, such a thing that you can think of? Or?
I don't, look, I think that, I mean, generally with a lot of interviews they focus on, you know, the poor grieving mother and my children, and I don't feel sometimes they emphasise how important it is to get these appliances serviced. Like, it's the whole appliance and the fuel burning appliance servicing that is the most important message, because and the reasons why these people need to get it done, like, that's never really focused on. You know, I think that there's still probably a lot of people out there that don't realise that their open fires or any of their gas appliances, you know, these are a risk to your health, and the reasons why and how to look after them. So I just think that really needs to be the forefront, and people need to start looking at that. And otherwise, I think that you're right, the tenants and the real estate agents, they do have a big responsibility. If you're a real estate agent and if your tenant is not going to look after the health of their tenants when servicing their appliance, don't accept them. A lot of people in Victoria, that's what they're doing. The real estate agents are saying, no, you're off my book. So you have to be cruel to be kind, but these people deserve to not have a property.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, that's all of my questions really. So, you know, I'd like to thank you very much for this interview. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. Good. Thank you.